In this section, we'll discuss the assumptions that need to be met in order to use the analysis of variance. There are 4 assumptions that need to be met in order to perform an analysis of variance. First, the response values, after accounting for group effect, should be normally distributed. Second, the variance should be constant across groups. These first 2 are assumptions that we also checked with the 2-sample t-test. We checked that the response was normally distributed within each group and also that the variances were similar. Third, the model is linear. And 4, the responses are independent. In order to assess the assumptions, we examine what are called the residuals. The residual is the difference between the observed value and the predicted value based on the model. In the last section, we talked about how the model was made up of an overall mean and a group effect, the mu and the alpha. So the residual is that individual difference from this model predicted value. It's that E term. This is how we'll assess the assumptions. The first 3 assumptions can be assessed by looking at residual plots. We can use a normal probability plot to see if the residuals are normally distributed, and then we can look at a scatter plot of the residuals by the predicted values for the linearity and constant variance assumption. The independence assumption is assessed by knowing the design of the study. So are these truly independent groups or are they dependent groups? In the last sections, we've talked about how to determine if groups are independent or dependent. So are they the same individuals collected over time? If so, those are dependent groups. Are they comparing different individuals who are in different treatment groups? If so, those are independent groups. The ANOVA model is fairly robust to some of the assumption violations. If normality and constant variance is violated, we can still use the ANOVA if we have a large number of observations. If we have small number of observations or violations of normality are clear, we can perform what's called a non-parametric test, and we'll learn more on non-parametric tests later. If the number of observations is small or violations of constant variance assumption are clear, we can use transformations or some other things to help stabilize the variance. When the responses are not independent, we can use what's called repeated measures or mixed effects analysis to account for the correlation between measurements. We won't learn about these things in this class, but I just wanted you to be aware that if the assumptions are violated, there are other options. In summary, the 4 assumptions that must be met in order to use analysis of variance: linearity of the model, independence of responses, normality of responses, and equality of variance across the groups. We must check these to see how well our ANOVA model fits after we've conducted it. If you see the examples section, checking the assumptions will be demonstrated.